evening, wherever you are joining us from. My name is Patricia Roxanne Hammond, coming to you live from our studios at Kwabenya Point 1. This is NEWSBOARD. Let's take a look at the headlines in Ghana and around the world. UG-UTAG and UPSA-UTAG awaits National Executive Council's decision before calling off its strike. Apiate model community to be completed within 6 to 12 months. $16 million Ghanaians have so far registered for Ghana's national identification card. And a court in India has sentenced 38 people to death for their role in a series of bomb blasts in 2008. You can also watch us on Facebook, Instagram and YouTube at NewTVGH. And now to the details. The leadership of the University Teachers Association of Ghana has denied claims that it has agreed to call off its ongoing strike following its meeting with the Education Committee of Parliament. The ranking member of the Education Committee, Peter Nochu Kotoy, on Thursday said UTAG has agreed in principle to call off its 5-week-long strike and will announce their decision after consultation with members following a meeting with all stakeholders.
The president of UTAG, Professor Solomon Nunu, said they only told the committee that they need to discuss the resolutions of the meeting with their members, and a decision on whether or not the strike will be called off will subsequently be taken by the National Executive Committee. He explained that the meeting with the Education Committee in Parliament afforded the legislators the opportunity to appreciate their concerns and call for speedy negotiations. Quote, "A decision on whether to call off the strike is not for us as leaders to take. It will require the larger NEC to decide. We as national officers cannot do that. We need to go back and consult, and that is the only way." Further explaining the happenings at Thursday's meeting, he said the National Labor Commission made some pleadings, including calling off the strike, which the committee urged them to consider. He said the NLC has been instructed to ensure that within 1 week after UTAG decides to call off its strike, the NLC must ensure that the negotiations are completed. The professor said UTAG will take a final decision in the coming days, after which the NLC is expected to act and ensure that negotiations are completed.
Lecturers at the University of Professional Studies also say their strike is still in force despite a notice from the school's management announcing the commencement of classes on Monday, February 21. According to UPSA-UTAG, they are members of a national body, hence decision taken by the National Executive Council of UTAG binds on lecturers in UPSA as well.
According to UPSA-UTAG, they are members of the national body. Hence, decisions taken by the NEC of UTAG includes their lecturers. This follows an earlier letter from UPSA management that said its lecturers were to resume active teaching on Monday. That directive came in the wake of the injunction placed on UTAG's strike by the Labor Division of the Accra High Court.
The Tema High Court has dismissed a habeas corpus application by Oliver Baker Vomawo, who has been charged with treason felony and is currently in police custody. He is expected to reappear at the Ashaiman District Court on February 28, 2022.
A habeas corpus is a writ issued by a court directing one who holds another in custody to produce the person before the court for a specified purpose. The legal team for Barker Vomawo had filed a habeas corpus application at the Tema High Court for the IGP and the Attorney General to appear before the court to justify the continued detention of Barker Vomawo. But the Tema High Court on Thursday, February 17, 2022, held that the application for habeas corpus had failed owing to an intervening event of Barker Vomawo being presented before a district court, of which a bail application had been refused. This was after Dr. Justice Remsey, moving the motion, had argued that the district court, having expressly declined jurisdiction, meant the accused should be taken to a court of competent jurisdiction. However, the police are in a habit of being cynical in detaining persons found having offended the law for their own pleasure.
The Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Honorable Samuel Abujinapo, says the model community that government has promised to rebuild for the people of Apiate will begin soon and will be completed within 6 to 12 months. He also announced government's robust plan to rebuild the community in 3 phases.
The Minister for Lands and Natural Resources explained that the first stage that's already been provided are tents and related materials for the victims to occupy in the interim. Stage 2, he said, will see the provision of temporary structures, and the third are actual construction block works and livelihood support for the people. He disclosed that on Friday he will lead a team to Apiache to identify areas where the second phase will be erected or put in place, especially before the rain set in. He expressed government's optimism to raise sufficient funds to build a model community, which he described as a much greener and sustainable concept. According to him, government through the ministry and NATMO has provided some basic relief to the people, including food, water, and healthcare. He emphasized that government will undertake the rebuilding of the community in an industrial manner, in line with best practices, explaining that this systematic and gradual process of going about things comes as a result of the public accountability regime of the country.
More than 16 million Ghanaians have so far registered for Ghana's National Identification Card, the Ghana Card. The head of corporate affairs at the National Identification Authority, Mr. Abdul Ganiu, has said. The figure represents 85% of Ghanaian adult population. Although foreign residents have also been registered and issued with their Ghana Card, the NIA is yet to confirm the details of their statistics.
Head of Corporate Affairs at the National Identification Authority revealed that so far the NIA had issued cards to all the people registered, but about 2 million of the cards were yet to be collected. The main reason for that situation was primarily the change of collection points, particularly for those who were registered during the mass registration exercise. Quote, initially, the challenge with the collection was the backlog from the mass registration exercise and the technical challenges that made it impossible for the cards to be given out promptly. However, that has been resolved, but some people still failed to report at the location points on scheduled times when they were asked to do so, he explained. He indicated that those cards yet to be collected had been launched with the newly set up district offices of the NIA, which had augmented the operational areas of the authority. Despite the opening of district offices to make it easier for the collection of already issued cards or go through the process of new one, many people continue to show up at the various registration centers, desperate to get their Ghana cards, now a mandatory ID for the SIM card re-registration, Social Security, and most bank transactions.
And on to some business stories. The Bulk Oil Storage and Transportation Company Limited has surcharged 6 transporters for adulterating petroleum products worth 3,445,200 Ghana cedis at its Kumasi depot last year. This follows the discovery of adulterated fuel by the company during the pre-discharge testing processes at a depot last year.
Investigations by the committee set up to probe the incident show that there were a number of incidents related to product storage and transfer losses, including but not limited to the disappearance of more than 100,000 liters of gas oil on September 4, 2021. But the management of Boast said it had sanctioned 6 transporters who were implicated in the illegal trade. This was contained in a management response to an audit observation memo that has cited Boast for fuel adulteration worth over 3.4 million Ghana cedis at its Kumasi depot. It said 4 transporters had fully paid their undisclosed surcharged amount, while 2 others were yet to fully settle theirs. Boast also plans to install portable product analyzers to offer instant product quality checks before or after products are discharged into the storage tanks. Adulteration of petroleum products entails the illegal introduction of foreign substances that could lead to non-compliance with standard specifications. This consequently causes irreparable damage to engines, which could result in increased fuel consumption and a low fuel spraying rate in the combustion chamber.
The Minister of Finance, Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, has called for increased political commitment from the government of West African states to combat illicit financial flows. He said such commitment and political will would be used to eliminate the criminal activities such funds were used to support. He noted that a reduction in the menace would help reduce the unlawful outflow of financial resources from West Africa and also contain terrorism and political insurgents, which were gaining currency in recent years.
Mr. Ofori-Atta expressed concern over the fact that being grey-listed by the Financial Action Task Force risked becoming a stronghold on the region by eroding confidence in the financial system and freezing banking assets worth over $500 billion. Mr. Ofori-Atta said a strong political will was needed to to rid the countries and the region at large of the practices and save them from being put on the gray list of countries with AML and CTF regimes. He noted that the money laundering and terrorism financing were becoming increasingly complicated, and West African states must be innovative in identifying and confiscating illicit funds before they were used by criminals for nefarious activities, including terrorism and political violence. He said it continues to pose enormous risks to the global financial system, peace, and socio-economic development, with West Africa's case being peculiar. Given that the sub-region was a major region of concern regarding terrorism financing and its activities, he said there was the need for strengthened collaboration among member states in order to curb the menace, with all its associated predicate offenses.
A new World Bank report has revealed that Ghana had accumulated significant government arrears prior to COVID-19 pandemic. This was far higher than the projected arrears post-COVID-19. The report, dubbed Finance for an Equitable Recovery, indicates that the percentage of the country's arrears was estimated at almost 5% of the country's gross domestic product.
The World Bank report ranked the nation 16th in sub-Saharan Africa with the highest government arrears. It confirms concerns by some economists and analysts that the country's fiscal situation was deteriorating prior to COVID-19. This was also heightened by the rising debt. The report, however, urged governments, including Ghana, to mobilize new revenue to pay off debts incurred for the crisis response and preserve their ability to support the COVID-19 recovery, adding the potential return to economic growth during the recovery will help. The report said resource-constrained governments in the short term face the challenge of scaling back fiscal support to households and firms without dampening the recovery.
The local currency has crossed the 7 Ghana cedi to $1 mark on the retail market with less than 2 months into 2022. Checks at some forex bureaus and commercial banks indicate that the dollar is being sold at a little above 7 Ghana cedis, while some forex bureaus and banks are buying a dollar between 6 Ghana cedis 85 pesos to 7 cedis. They are selling $1 at 7 cedis or 7 cedis 5 pesos.
The city's predicament has been largely attributed to the uncertainty about Ghana's fiscal outlook, despite intervention by the Bank of Ghana. Lack of confidence in the Ghanaian economy by some investors has fueled selling of some of the country's international bonds, whilst demand for the dollar for imports keeps rising. Due to this, the city has depreciated by a little over 5% to a dollar and still ranks it as the second worst performing currency on the African continent so far this year. The situation could compel the central bank to introduce additional measures to contain the rapid fall of the local currency, though much work needs to be done by managers of the fiscal economy to reassure investors that revenue will be boosted whilst the rising debt will be tamed.
We'll be right back with more news after this break. Welcome back, and on to some international news. Sudanese and Ethiopian families who won a lottery allowing them to move to the US have sued the government over delays in processing their entering visas. The 12 families in a lawsuit referred to as Tifaya and Blinken says the US government is unlawfully withholding their visa hearing process by refusing to reassign the case to other embassies away from the ones in Khartoum and Addis Ababa, which have not resumed routine visa processing.
Under the U.S. Immigration and Nationality Act, all winners of the diversity visa program must be scheduled for immigration visa interviews before the end of the fiscal year, which is 30th September, unless a court intervenes. One of the lawyers representing the families says they have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to make permanent residents, but the government keeps deprioritizing their cases. If their visas are not issued by September 30th, they lose a golden opportunity, and so does the United States, says Curtis Lee Morrison. Rafael Urena, another lawyer, says the U.S. has failed to live up to its commitment to African diaspora, particularly to diversity visa applicants. A similar case by Iraqi lottery winners in December saw the interview location of the families change, and the suit was eventually withdrawn. The diversity visa lottery is responsible for the largest percentage of African and Black immigration to the U.S.
Malawians are criticizing their MPs after a legislator asked Parliament to buy raincoats for them. Lilongwe South MP made the request on Wednesday, saying they needed to shield themselves from the rain while walking to the chamber from the car park.
The House leader reportedly assured MPs that the matter would be taken to the Parliamentary Commission Committee for consideration. Some Malawians have been angered by the move, saying the MPs were being selfish and insensitive at a time when floods have devastated many families across the country. Flooding caused by recent tropical storm Anna killed dozens of people and destroyed farms, homes, and roads. Last week, the weather authorities issued flood warnings in parts of the central and northern Malawi.
A court in India has sentenced 38 people to death for their role in a series of bomb blasts in 2008 in the western state of Gujarat.
On 26 July 2008, around 20 bombs exploded in the space of an hour across residential areas, marketplaces, public transports, and hospitals in Ahmedabad. Several unexploded bombs were also found. The Indian Mujahideen, then an unknown Islamic militant group, had claimed responsibility for the attacks in an email sent to some media outlets. The Indian government declared the group a terrorist organization and banned it in 2010 after it was accused of an attack on a German bakery in Pune, in which 17 people were killed and scores injured. In the Ahmedabad blast, 78 people had faced trial. One of the accused later helped investigating agencies. The remaining 28 have been acquitted.
And on to some sports stories. A referee in the Division 1 League, Courage Ampofo, has been suspended for 8 match days for wrongfully awarding a penalty in the game between Samatex FC and BYFA. According to the ruling by the GFA's match review panel, Mr. Ampofo played 15 minutes of added time at the end of the game, in which he awarded a penalty to Samatex.
The panel found out that the attacker of Samatex FC pushed the defender of BIFA slightly and he fell to the ground. The BIFA defender did not commit any foul in the penalty area, which warrants an award of penalty. The panel added that the referee was far from the incident and that his anticipation was poor. They also found out that the decision by the referee resulted in serious confrontations, including the use of a taser by a police officer during the incident. When asked to defend his decision remotely, Mr. Ampofo stated that he was traveling and did not have a smartphone to enable him to watch the footage from the match. As his decision was deemed to have changed the course of the game, the referee was handed an 8-match-day suspension. The panel also recommended that the behavior of the upset BIFA players and the police be investigated.
Atletico Madrid's poor form continued as the La Liga champions were beaten by bottom club Levante on Wednesday. Gonzalo Melero scored the only goal of the game in the second half, driving home from the middle of the box.
Angel Correa thought he had equalized in stoppage time with a stunning overhead kick, but it was ruled out for a foul. Michael Mosa then almost added a spectacular second for Levante, but his shot from the halfway line hit the bar. There was more drama to come in the final seconds when Atletica goalkeeper headed wide off the post from a set piece. The defeat was Atletico's 6th in 10 league matches and leaves them 5th, 15 points behind leaders Real Madrid.
And on to some entertainment. American rapper Lil Wayne will play his first UK show in several years at the Strawberries and Cream Festival. The 39-year-old musician had sold more than 20 million albums worldwide and won 5 Grammy Awards.
Lil Wayne was forced to cancel a UK tour in 2011 after his visa application was reportedly rejected by UK border authorities due to prior convictions. His performance at the Cambridge event will be his only European show in 2022, festival organizers said. Strawberries and Cream, which has been running since 2014, has also continued its pledge from last year to feature more female acts. Artists such as Mabel, Ella May, and Thames will be part of the lineup. The festival's organizers had committed to further work to achieve gender equality in crowds as well as on stage. The weekend will include drum and bass acts, as well as dance music, reggae, R&B, and DJ sets for an all-female collective.
And that's it for NEWSBOARD. Let's take a look again at our headlines. UG UTAG and UPSA UTAG awaits National Executive Council's decision before calling off its strike. Apiate model community to be completed within 6 to 12 months. $16 million Ghanaians have so far registered for Ghana's National Identification Card. And a court in India has sentenced 38 people to death for their role in a series of bomb blasts in 2008. Thanks for watching. My name is Patricia Roxanne Hammond. We came to you live from our studios at Kwabenya Point 1. Good evening.